Hello, my name's Ed Lasowski. I'm the instructor for our course, and I'd like to welcome you to our first chapter, which we're going to talk about the role of human resources in today's global organizations, a role that's changed quite a bit over the last decade and definitely over the last 2 decades and more. Key points we're going to cover in this chapter are the role of human resource management in today's organizations, and that role is one that continues to expand, as well as a fair number of the major human resource activities that HR professionals need to deal with in today's global economy. One of the key aspects that I think we need to start with is the concept of capital. I'm sure you all are aware of the many ways of measuring financial capital. And while that is important, as well as the physical assets of a facility, there's probably nothing more important than the value that we place in our human capital. The employees, the third-party vendors we use, the contractors we use to help generate income for our organization. And when we really think of it, the people that we have in our organization, while it's a very popular saying that they're our most important asset, people are really the engine that generates income in any organization, and really regardless of where it's located in the world. So we look at the role of human resource management in today's global organizations. I think it's definitely one that a HR professional wears a lot of hats in. It's everything from the recruiting process, where we go about to identify staffing needs, identify the skill sets needed, go through the recruiting process to get the absolute best talent we can get. And then once employees are on board, ensuring that they're properly trained, continue to advance in knowledge and experience and skills, ensuring their work environment, everything from their compensation to the environment in which they work, is one that helps retain them. And then really looking at not only existing policies we have, but more importantly, developing new policies to address issues that will continue to come up as our overall society changes. So it's important that we have strategies in place to retain our top talent. And as you can see, there's a whole host of activities a human resource professional will engage in. Obviously, staffing retention, which I've talked about, the many changes we're seeing in demographics across the globe, whether it be generational, societal, or a host of different nationalities that may be entering and leaving the workforce, as well as a workforce that in today's world is far more educated than it would have been in 30, 40 years ago when I first started in the human resource field. So as an example, in my role as a plant HR manager, I've pretty much worked in every potential functional group, recruiting, strategic management, benefits, compensation, labor relations, dealing with labor unions, working in the international market, and I've got a fair amount of experience in Mexico, Puerto Rico, some in Germany, and I've even done some contract work with my firm in an island called Mauritius, which is off the coast of Madagascar, which is on the east side of Africa. So again, I bring that up because the role of an HR professional in today's organizations is far, far different than the role that I started in back in 1986. And again, I worked for a Fortune 50 company for 37 years, the last 30 of which were in human resources. And I can definitely say without a doubt that the field has changed and changed quite drastically from the time from when I began. And let's talk about the role of HR. And I've talked about it to a fair degree, but one key aspect is really considering it from a social standpoint, the different attitudes and cultures about what is acceptable or right in an organization. And again, where that line is drawn also depends on where geographically you may be standing. So again, that's another major challenge for individuals in the HR field today is that line of of what is ethical and what is not may vary somewhat depending on whether you're in the United States, in Mexico, in China, in India, or in Europe. So again, it's going to depend on the society that you're dealing with, the employees you're dealing with, and have to take that into account. Not only making sure you follow company policy, but that you don't step on cultural toes or do some take some actions that would be contrary to the cultural norms of an organization. A key aspect that continues to change in addition to social issues are the legal. In the U.S., there's a host of federal laws that an HR professional needs to be very well versed in. And just as in the United States, there are international laws as well as laws for each specific country that an HR professional may work with. So it's really critical that an HR professional know the legal requirements for the business based on the geographic location where a site is at, and be aware to deal with issues, be it discrimination laws, be it dealing with a variety of compensation laws regarding how people are paid, as well as new laws that continue to be developed, both through, in the United States, in many cases, laws are developed state by state, and then they eventually become federal law. So an HR professional needs to be aware of local customs as well as local laws, state or regional laws, as well as laws that govern across the entire country, regardless of where that country may be. The overall economic environment is another aspect of business that HR professionals definitely need to be aware of. The day of HR being an expense item on the capital worksheets are long over. HR professionals are expected to deliver value to an organization, be a strategic partner in working side by side with business leaders, and really being able to anticipate needs that are existing today, as well as needs that will exist in the future. And by anticipating those, put into place practices that will ideally address those needs before they become a core requirement. And last but far from least are the technological challenges facing our employees in our world. Just the fact we have this class is a very good indication of how technology has really changed and brought new challenges to organizations. That challenge involves everything from how we train employees, and again, online type learning is becoming the norm, how we communicate, obviously email, live webinars, different ways we work with individuals across the globe in many different countries. Technology has opened all those doors that allow us to work with people, regardless of where they geographically may be sitting at any point in time. And when we think about the role of HRM, let's not forget the many different aspects on how that role is continually changing. I mentioned globalization several times already. The concept of offshoring. So for example, in the United States, where we move manufacturing or service-related industries to other countries, and those other employees in those other countries provide that direct support to our organization. Many changes in employment law, and that's not just the United States. Every country across the globe continues to see challenges and changes in their employment law. Healthcare, again, it varies from country to country. The healthcare laws in Canada as compared to the United States, as compared to those in Europe, and as compared to those in the Far East, all are different. And an HR professional in today's organizations needs to be aware of what those differences are and account for those differences as they're developing policies and developing ways of helping ensure that our employees have the best possible work environment. Employee expectations is an area that continues to challenge organizations. The changing demographic groups individuals that are often referred to as the baby boomers, individuals that were born right after World War II up until the early 1960s, are now retiring out of the workforce at a rate of approximately 10,000 a day. And you think of that in the United States, 10,000 experienced professionals retiring every day out of the workforce, and then you multiply that by that same level of change in many different countries across the globe, brings a lot of different challenges to what employee expectations will be, because there's new workforce coming in, the millennials and the existing Generation Xers. You have a wide range of expectations of employees that are in their early 20s as compared to their midlife age of the range of 35 to 45. And yet, also baby boomers. Many baby boomers are choosing to stay engaged in the workforce and may continue to do so well into their senior years. So again, a good HR professional needs to acknowledge all those challenges and ensure policies are in place to effectively deal with them. That also creates a lot of challenges from a diversity perspective. We have many different individuals of different genders, of different nationalities, religious backgrounds, all working together in the same organization across geographic lines. And that barrier of geography has been obviously dismantled due to the advent of the advanced technology that we see today. And technology is not only continuing to advance, but it's growing at exponential rates. You know, we're seeing new technology that already has come on the workforce, you know, be it speech recognition, self-driving vehicles, artificial intelligence. All these changes in technology are definitely raising the bar on the type of training that individuals need to have in today's organizations. You know, another key aspect that we all need to take into account is the concept of social networking. Many individuals have, for example, Facebook pages. Many organizations participate in social media such as Facebook, and all those ways of communicating in different formats also need to be taken into account as we look at the challenges that face organizations today. And some of those challenges include some rapid change in customer demand or client demand that results in either a need to rapidly add to an existing workforce, or in contrast, it could change quickly such that there needs to be some downsizing or layoffs, reducing staff, a reduction in force that must be handled carefully to ensure that all labor laws and employment laws are met. And when we think about the different hats that an HR professional wears in today's organization, you know, there's many different titles that exist. I've literally held really all of these titles except for two. I've been a recruiter, you know, identifying talent to bring it in, dealing with compensation analysis across the site and different sites. I started in human resources as a HR professional and then worked my way up to be a HR manager. I've been an employee relations manager, labor relations manager, benefits manager. I've not done the work-life coordination role, but I've also held roles as a training and development manager. My last role was a plant human resource manager for a large manufacturing site of 650 employees that was also unionized, bringing in a host of other challenges. I've not held the role of a VP of HR, but I can guarantee you that if you're managing a workforce of 650 employees in a manufacturing setting that's unionized, a lot of the strategy that I was required to develop in a smaller organization probably would have met the requirements for that of an HR professional as a vice president. And when we think about the challenges that we see in today's organizations, Uh, Definitely the aspect of cost containment. HR is no longer, as I said earlier, a bottom line expense item. It is now responsible at sitting at the business table as a business partner, focusing on ways of reducing healthcare costs. In the United States, dealing with the Affordable Health Care Act, which continually is being challenged and changed by the existing political structure. As I mentioned earlier, the technology changes that we see continue to change every year, and those changes are escalating at a rapid pace. The economy, again, right now in the United States in 2018 is doing quite well, but there's no telling how that economy will shift over the next year or so, and different countries in different parts of the globe are having their own host of challenges from an economic perspective, as well as changes that they're seeing in their overall workforce. For example, women by far are becoming much more of a powerful force in our organizations, and that's a good change because it brings a very healthy, different point of view when we have both women and men working side by side in all levels of the organization. Individuals of different cultural backgrounds, societal backgrounds, also bring a wealth of knowledge and experience that, again, that mixture, that diverse mix of individuals of different backgrounds, knowledges, and skills really does help create an organization that can be very powerful and one that can have a very strong positive impact on an organization's bottom line. And also far from least are the challenges from an ethical perspective. Each country has their own societal norms, their own cultural norms. The United States is no different. We have our own ethical standards that most individuals, the term would be a reasonable man or a reasonable woman would know. There are certain lines that should not be crossed, but many of those lines have become quite gray, depending on where an individual may be residing within a specific country. So, for example, in the United States, if you are on the eastern seaboard, say in New York area, what you view as ethical or correct or right, be it ethically right, politically right, morally right, or right as per society norms, will vary if you are talking to an individual in the South, say in Texas, which is where I reside, or one on the West Coast in California. So the ethical standards across just the same country, as the example I just provided, vary. Now take those ethical challenges and consider how different the ethics would be viewed if you're working with a diverse group that has multiple sites across the globe. So individuals in Mexico, India, China, Europe, of course the United States, Canada. Bringing a wide range of individuals together can make business decisions quite challenging because what used to be a relatively far easier decision now has become far more complex because what is ethical in one country may very well not be ethical in another. So again, an experienced HR professional needs to understand those differences exist, know what those differences are, know the legal implications of decisions that are being made, and then make if it's a policy, create a policy that is somewhat flexible to account for differences in different geographic regions, but also ensure those ethical standards are maintained across the organization in a relatively stable method. So again, as you can see, the role of HR is one that has continued to change. It's going to continue to change rapidly as we go into the future. And the remainder of our course is going to talk about that role in human resources and how not only how HR professionals need to address these challenges, but also how really any manager and any employee at any level in the organization needs to deal with these challenges in today's rapidly changing, technologically challenging, and really exciting workforce that we deal with today. So again, we'll delve into more of those topics as we go through the course. So again, enjoy Chapter 1, gives you a broad overview of what we're going to be covering, and our next video will move us on to our next chapter, which of course is Chapter 2. See you there.